Just FYI, my Prime Gov looks like this.
Yeah, it's because they don't really use it for the meeting. What do you
But it's got,
normally
well, normally, I mean, I would see this, and then it goes into the voting screen, you know, the,
But for Human Rights Commission, because they don't enter their agenda in the system, so,
oh, they don't? Then that's what it's gonna look like.
yeah. So I don't know what it looked like at the last meeting, or if y'all were.
Well, I think, I mean, because I called it up, but
Testing. Oh, yeah, that's on.
Sounds good. Those answers may come after next Wednesday. I have a meeting next Wednesday that might clarify that.
Okay, great.
Emma, this
Is this a thank you?
it's a,
It's a check for $1
No.
million?
no, sorry to disappoint you on both counts. It's just an admit to the Museum of
Oh,
Art,
thank you. Okay,
expiring next September. So I thought,
that is plenty of time.
My-
Thank you. Are you on the board of that too?
no, but I'm a member, so I get, sometimes I get free admission
Have you been?
tickets.
I actually
yes. Oh, yes.
recently went, and my family went when they visited, We Love Chihuly, so
Oh,
it was great.
yes.
And then the third floor, the like native interactive glass blowing and storytelling.
I want to see that.
It was
That's what,
really-
the Raven and something.
Yes,
or-
yes. I
Yeah.
would highly recommend. I thought the art of it was great. So-
I'm going to go.
But I'll have to save these. It's great that they last so long. So when they switch on the
Yeah.
exhibits.
What is it you're trying to pull up?
It's a Google Slides presentation, but I checked in with them and it's okay if we can't get it. So let's just, leave it. Thanks for trying.
Would you have a point of order for her?
I can do any point of order, and I'll make up something that sounds good. Can you get some validation?
Yes.
Okay.
For many years. At the Obi.
Are you a parliamentarian? Are you sure?
This'll work, yeah.
So you're going to the new deans, and how do you say that? Investiture?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, I think you're on.
I am. All right, I'm going to call this meeting to order of the Oklahoma City Human Rights Commission. We do have a quorum, and I want to welcome all of you here to our first meeting of 2024. And if you can reflect back on January 24, 2023, exactly a year to this date, we had our first meeting, our first official meeting. So it's been quite a year, and one purpose of this meeting in particular is to reflect on that first year of operations and to plan for our second year and beyond. So I'm looking forward to the conversation today. We've asked Shaylin Jackson to join us for this meeting for a couple of reasons. One is, as we all look back on this first year, Shaylin was just this huge personality and force of nature that took such good care of our commission as we began our operations. And I want to have her here to celebrate that, to celebrate her participation in our commission in its infancy, and also to get her perspective, which we value so much, about what lies ahead, what work will we be doing in this second year and beyond, and what are your thoughts as we do some strategic planning for the future?
Yes. Hey, y'all. How y'all doing? One, I want to say, wow. Like, for real. Whenever y'all said yes to this opportunity, whenever I said yes / was voluntold, we didn't know what we were in for. But what I knew from day one was that every single one of y'all were passionate about doing the right thing for all of our residents. And so I just want to say thank you for how you leaned in. Thank you for how you showed up. Thank you for your transparency, your vulnerability to be like, I don't know what we're doing, but let's do it, right? We were able to be transparent and vulnerable with one another. And even thank you for your patience with me. This was my first commission. People like Rita had to be like, here's the training we've done over here, and here's a person over here. And we really just hopped in there and got it done. When I look over the last year, we did exactly that. We got it done. You all rocked it out. I know that, it would have been nicer to, well, I'm about to say that, and in the same vein, it's not, but more cases, but it's like no cases sometimes are a good thing. But ultimately, what I really am proud of is that you all, our residents know that y'all are here. More need to know that y'all are here, but y'all have really done a great job, and not just saying that we're here and not reaching out. I think that we're doing the work. So thank y'all for that. I also want to say that y'all have been trend setting. So it's a big deal that the forms are electronic. That's a huge deal, and that's not really something we do at the city. We don't do electronic stuff. It's like, here's this paper, mail it to us, fax it to us, walk it into us. There's no, and so there's things like that y'all are trend setting. When we looked at other HRCs, I couldn't find any that had any electronic submissions like that. And so things like that y'all are trend setting on and really leading the way, and I just want to say keep at it. I'm excited for what's next. As far as the city, I think that one thing y'all have really done too is really embraced our I&D work here at the city, and y'all are elevating, and you're an extension of us, whether you know it or not. So thank you all for that, and thank you for representing us well, because it's been greatly appreciated. What I am gonna say is, for what's next is just really understanding, and we talk about this all the time. Actually, let me pause before I transition. I'm grateful, and she does not like this attention, but y'all haven't really heard from me because Emma joined us. And Emma has really done a phenomenal job. I think that what's awesome is not only could I trust y'all with Emma, but Emma with y'all, because how I like to lead, I want to make sure she's not getting ran over. And I knew that y'all could be trusted with her, and that wouldn't be the case, and that you would embrace her and teach her as well. And so Emma has soared for many reasons on her own merit, but also you all really embracing and making sure that Emma could thrive. Literally from day one, she was on that stand. Wasn't it day one or day two?
Day two.
Day two. Day two. And then I sent her a picture of herself on the stand. But I just say that to say thank you for taking such great care of Emma, because it is also an extension of she moved all the way from here to Oklahoma, and first impressions are everything, and we were able to give her that first impression. So thank y'all so much. As we transition to say what is next, I will just say, and I've said it before, don't try to outdo yourself. We want to keep momentum, but that doesn't mean that we have to add momentum and speed up. A lot of times, you know, sometimes less is best. Maybe less isn't best, but you don't need to add 10 more things because we have a group of overachievers. And we have to remember you have to not only be sustainable, some of y'all are rolling off this year. And so we want to make sure that the next group is prepared and able to hit the ground running and not feel like they're walking in drinking from a fire hose. So don't feel you have to outdo yourself. Y'all had a phenomenal year last year. That's the biggest piece of advice that I have. And even with speakers and stuff, like just really making sure that quality over quantity. So if we can't find 3 speakers for next year, 1 quality speaker is enough for y'all to have an amazing year. So as you go into this strategy session, I just want to encourage you with that sometimes more is not the answer. Because I know how y'all will say, we'll do 10,000 things. No, you won't. Don't do that. Do not do that. And just really have focus and be able to talk to each other to say, where is it that we want to go? And then just keeping your eye on the prize and that North Star. And my team will continue to be here. Clearly, y'all haven't really needed to reach out to me, but if there's any reason you can't contact Emma, I hope you know where to find me, by phone, by email, and I love pop-ups and lunches, so just hit me up. But hopefully that was what you needed. Just keep up the good work, y'all.
Thank you so much, Shaylin.
Yes. Thank you.
I'll tell you what, Shaylin, you speak of the North Star, and you're a really big piece of that North Star for us.
Thank you.
And we appreciate Emma. Thank you for bringing us Emma. Everything's going well, and you know that it is, but we do miss you and we'll always welcome you at our meetings. Your advice is inspiring and very
Thank you.
pragmatic as well. So we consider you part of this group. And
I
we
did
know you
fall
are
in love with Emma and been like, Emma
Yes.
got it, bye.
Yeah,
See you
we
later.
noticed you skedaddled right away.
I trust
But
her.
we appreciate all the responsibilities you have here with the city, and
Thank you.
And just don't forget us.
Well, this is what I'll say. Because Emma's here and the capacity is more, we are doing more external things very, very soon. So rep us, y'all. Rep us. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye,
Thank
y'all.
you so much. All right, I have been asked to remind everyone to turn your mics on when you speak, just for the recording's quality sake. So let's go to item 2 on the agenda. I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes from the November 28th meeting. I hope you all have had an opportunity to read the minutes. And I'll entertain a motion to approve.
I move that we approve the minutes from the November 28th meeting.
Is there a second? All right. All in favor? Say aye. Any opposed? All right. We have approved the minutes. Next item is our compliance officer's report. Emma Winiski.
Thank you. I just want to build on what Shay said. First of all, obviously, thrilled to be here and grateful for each and every one of you for welcoming me. And Shay acts like she just skedaddled, but obviously has been providing so much leadership and support to me as I'm sort of transitioning into this. So very humble as always, but like, again, she is engaged. It's clear that she cares about what this commission is doing, how it plays into larger city efforts as well. So just wanted to say thank you. The updates are quick today because I think we'll touch on some of these things as we get into more of the strategic planning. But sort of a recap on our Human Rights Day event on December 10th. So posters were put up at each of the library branches with a couple of questions, just like why are human rights important to you and what can Oklahoma City do to protect human rights? And I'm really thrilled with how that went. We got 194 different responses. And so I think that was good for awareness and engagement with community members who might not be able to make these meetings or might watch them later but don't really have a chance to have their voices heard. So I'm really thrilled about that. The responses were, as you can imagine, all over the place because human rights just covers so much. So some of them were as basic as everyone deserves to eat and to have a place to live, and some of them were more focused on education or healthcare access. Some of them touched on international issues. And so I think, again, it just reaffirms the breadth of the work that we can touch on. And again, is encouraging to me that people, one, know that we're here and are interested in having their voices heard. So It's not like everyone was focusing on one issue that can help guide us in the strategic planning session, but I'll keep summarizing them and we'll include those in our annual report. But again, thank you all for just like being a part of the planning process of that, and I'm super thrilled with how it went. So since our November meeting, a quick update on complaints. We've received 11 complaints, which is a big uptick from sort of earlier in the fall. One was all in Spanish, which I think is a nod to, again, affirm our efforts to increase accessibility from a language perspective. Shay touched on electronic, so this was electronic and all in Spanish. I want to give a quick shout out to Barbara, who's in our PIM department, who provided some translation services and also did a really brief interview with Telemundo just to, again, push that this is an option for our Spanish-speaking neighbors who might need to file a complaint. So some of them are still loose ends. Sometimes people raise a complaint and then I follow up and then it doesn't go anywhere. But again, this is all in the direction of trying to increase accessibility and sort of make sure that folks know and are able to submit complaints when they feel like they need to. The last thing is just about the annual report. Dean Couch and I have been talking with Debbie Martin, and we'll meet with Craig just about, and Councilperson Peck, of course, about how best to prepare for the council presentation and just informing the council of what we've done this first year. I know we're a bit different from other boards and commissions in the sense of there's probably a little bit more attention, and we want to go the extra mile in making sure that we communicate with City Council about what we've done. And so we're working on a report and a council briefing, and me, Dean Couch, Debbie Martin, and Craig will meet to just sort of talk about the timing of all that, so we'll keep you posted as needed. But again, I think we're all excited to communicate what we've done because I think we have done a lot, and that's just a small update as far as when we'll actually be presenting to council. But that is all I have. So.
And to item number 4, because it's just my input basically about where we are on preparing the annual report. Remember that our ordinance requires us to provide the City Council and other officials with an annual report. We began working on this in December, beginning with just a worksheet of chronological events. Everything we've done from orientation through the end of the year. And it was fun to put together. It was a lot of detail, and it wasn't meant to be our annual report, but rather a piece of work that we could refer to. As we've worked, and it's the team so far that's involved are Dr. Herron, Cindy Nguyen, myself, Emma, and Barbara Peck. And at this point in our preparation, we are planning to have 3, what some of them call deliverables. This is not in my category of vocabulary, but I can understand. We want to have 3 things ready. One is basically a 1 to 1.5 page summary for the City Council. And we've sent you a draft of this, and you should write on it draft, because we will still be working on it. But I wanted to give you an idea of what it looks like. It is, just this, you were, I think, sent by email just a 1.5 page report that we're working with. I'd really like to get it down to 1 page. And we're going to be talking about formatting and maybe getting Rhonda and Brian's help on how it looks too. But we're following somewhat of a format that we were given by the city. Some points of information are still in process, including the number of complaints and inquiries that we've received from the beginning through to date. So that's an evolving number, and we're going to cut it off at some point, but it is a number that is changing. The second deliverable is a letter from the chair of the commission, and it too is very short, no more than 1 page, but it's really more like a 1/2 page. And that's already been drafted. The primary purpose of that is to thank people for their support and and to alert the city council in a more conversational way about what we've been doing and what we hope to do. The third item is going to be a more detailed annual report, kind of a year in review with photographs and graphs and numbers and a little more pictorial and graphic in nature than these other two items. And that report will ultimately be posted on the website for people to see in a more colorful way what we've done this first year and who we are. We'll have more information about the commissioners and our speakers and other events. So that's going to be fun to put together, and that is, the text of it is kind of pulled together, but not the way it looks. Rhonda?
Is there an opportunity, I know you posted on the website, but you could have some inexpensively printed, because you can do it here, copies that we could use at future meetings for anybody in the audience? Because it's helpful for them to know what we've done.
Absolutely. I think that's a great idea.
You bet.
And we'll have Emma
Emma's
check on
taking notes.
resources. Can we do that? We're all learning about city resources and how to use them, what parameters we have. But I love that idea, because I do think we do have visitors to our meetings that would appreciate more context, like who we are, what are we doing here, why, what is our essential purpose. Thanks for that idea. When we have that larger piece, more put together, Rhonda and Brian, we're hopeful that you'll spend some time with it and look and give us your recommendations about impact. Okay, and Emma mentioned that we're working with Debbie Martin on a potential presentation to the City Council. I say potential because I don't want to assume that the City Council is going to invite us and put us on their agenda, but we are going to make ourselves available, and we will have in one of the February meetings in their packets the actual annual report and letter from the chair. So I will keep you all informed, because it would be wonderful if all of us could be there at that City Council meeting, just to let them see us. I know that the City Council members, they'll know the commissioner from their ward, but they might not know the rest of us. So I hope to get that on your calendar as soon as we know about it, and hope you can join us. Okay, any questions about the annual report or additional input? I really appreciate the team that's been working on it so far. It's been fun to put it together, I think. And at the same time, it gets us ready to move on to the second year. And I think the purpose of that for us internally is pretty important. So let's move to our strategic planning process. I wanted to give you my thoughts about how the process can unfold here. And I've been in touch with each of the committees about leading a discussion in each of their respective areas. But what I would like to see come from our strategic planning is two things: both reflection on the prior year and what's emerging or bubbling up as the most effective things that we did, what maybe lessons we learned from the first year, and then of course to look ahead and create some goals for us, some concrete goals. What I'd like to have is a process where we provide input to the leaders of each segment of the conversation. And then my hope is that from that discussion, we can crystallize 2 or 3 goals for each area. Like the Complaints and Conciliation Committee would come away from the discussion. You probably already have a lot of ideas about it, but come away from the discussion with a clarity of thought about what your 2 or 3 goals are for the second year. Same for the Communications Committee, the Education and Outreach Committee, and the Rules and Governance Committee. So that's my hope, and we will probably manage the time in such a way that we will end like 1:20 in that range. So if you all will help me keep an eye on the time, I think we can do this in an orderly way and reach an end before our time is up. So, any questions about process? Okay, well, let's get going with education and outreach. Cindy and Marcia, Cindy Nguyen and Dr. Marcia Dempsey Heron are the committee members for that area. And I will turn it over to the two of them for discussion.
Dr. Heron, let me know if I missed anything in our report. So we like to go over a quick review of what the Education and Outreach Committee has accomplished in the previous year. So we invited quite a few speakers, including Dr. George Henderson, Bob Blackburn, Julie Berry, as well as Emma already talked about how we celebrated Human Rights Day on December 10th with all the posters in the library. We also noticed that many of the speakers that we did invite were all men. We want to make sure that the next speakers that we invite are also reflective of the city. So we are trying to dial it back a little bit next year or this year and not do so much. We think we invited speakers almost every single meeting, and we kind of want to condense that down a little bit for 2024. So what that could look like is one big panel, and some of the topics that we are talking about could involve housing, transportation, employment, and public accommodations, all the areas that we talk about in all of our intakes. So we are still working on speakers for that, but please, if you know of anybody that is an expert in that area that would like to be on that panel, please contact both me and Marcia. And then the next event that we are thinking of is possibly a bystander intervention training. I think we have all been watching the news of all of the increasing Islamophobia, anti-Semitism, with all that is going on in the world. If you have been watching the news, you know that in a neighborhood in Oklahoma City recently had anti-Semitic and white supremacist flyers thrown across their neighborhoods. And we want to make sure that we are being good neighbors and know how to interact. So including in that bystander training involves the 5 Ds of intervention. And a lot of times it could happen where you are seeing somebody who is being harassed in the street or something else, and we don't really know how to react. So this training is designed to teach all of the commissioners, as well as welcome to the public, to know how to stand up for each other, especially in times like this. So that is likely going to happen in our May meeting, but we are very open to ideas. That is the only time that the trainer would be available. I also help the trainer and do the co-training if you're interested in that as well. But those are some of our events that we are planning for 2024. So a panel as well as a bystander intervention training. And we would love to have your thoughts. Did I miss anything?
No, you didn't, but I want to talk just about our 2 goals, just so that we can make them a little bit more concrete for the other commissioners. So, like Cindy said, we did a lot, and we had a really big presence on education and outreach, and we did that by generating ideas with us, and we want to generate ideas now alongside our fellow commissioners. So our ordinance calls for us to look at employment, housing, and public accommodations. And one goal that we have is to empower communities through comprehensive learning initiatives to enhance knowledge, skills, and awareness, fostering a more informed, engaged, and resilient population. And so through that work, we were like, let's do a training, bystander intervention training, which of course is at this point a recommendation to our fellow commissioners, in understanding that you might need more information in order to say, yes, we would support doing this particular training. And then goal 2 is to facilitate an informative and inclusive panel discussion on housing, employment, and public accommodations to foster awareness, promote dialogue, and generate actionable insights for advancing equitable practices and policies in our communities. So the panel of speakers, there were some general topics that we came up with. Transportation is one, and the reason is because everybody needs transportation. We think about Dr. Mellon Dillon from Embark. She has some really innovative ideas of how to make transportation accessible for everyone. So that's just one example. Still thinking about homelessness and affordable housing, the point in time count, getting updates on that. So we wanted to dial it back and really do some concentrating on how we could focus more on particular topics this year and generate some ideas from the group on potential speakers around those particular topics. So, hate to put y'all on the spot, but does anybody have any comments or ideas that are just burning right off the top of your head for things that we could do?
I think that you have done a great job with your speakers, and I've learned something from each one, and it has made me more aware of what our focus needs to be as humans. And I think you've done a good job. That's my comment, and I'm looking forward to some training. Even rocks can learn better. So I want to commend you both on your speakers.
I'm cheating because I'm looking at her screen. But I think bringing in the organizations that we are partnering with and the ones that we're getting to know a little bit more, that way we know who we're referring the complaints that we do have to. And learning more about what they're doing in their complaint process and, what kind of complaints they're receiving too.
Thank you.
I totally cheated because I saw that on her screen.
To follow up on that, you could have those partners all on a panel and so that you can get as much in one session and they can say the best practices, what their most opportune items would be and so on, and we could just learn a lot from it.
I have a question because I think it's also within the power of this commission to do research studies and advocate for policies, and so I love the idea of having a practical training as a way to engage with the community and have tangible skills that can be used. I'm also wondering, a level above just individual action, what we might want to organize our efforts on from a policy or research perspective, and if that's an interest of the commission, and if so, would we want to align the content or the subject matter that we're asking panelists to talk on with a study or a policy that we're sort of advocating for? Just a question.
To follow up on Emma's ideas, just want to remind you that our ordinance and our bylaws allow us to put together a task force or an advisory committee. And if there is a study that would be helpful, or legal research in some area, or something more pointed like that, we could create a task force that works through the year and reports at the end of the year what their recommendations, if any, would be. I don't have anything particular in mind, although there have been some issues pop up kind of from members of the city staff that give me some ideas of what a need or two might be. Beyond that, though, if we ourselves internally think that there's a need to study some area or run a survey of our residents in some way, it would cost money, we would have to look into resources to do something like that, but think along those lines as well for something we possibly could do the second year. Because there's no urgent issue sort of on our plate, I'm just adding that to your thought process. also have a question about bystander training open to the public. Cindy, would the training and the trainers be working with groups, or is it more like a speech? Is it more like information?
Yeah, great question. So it is a very interactive training. So it is more of she has slides and PowerPoints, and if she wants to, I can also co-present with her since it's our training together. And then we would talk with the audience, and if they wanted to, we could also role play scenarios on what to do if you see something happening.
Okay, I think that's so interesting, and I think that's something we could definitely work around. We'll just need to think about logistics of where we're going to do this, and maybe the city council chamber is not the place for that particular program, but it's just going to require some rethinking about where we are. Rhonda?
Regarding the bystander, Cindy, is there a call to action or an existing, here, you call this number, blah, 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 blah?
Yeah, so we invented the training during all of the rise in hate crimes against Asian Americans, especially in Oklahoma City. So CARE Oklahoma, or the Council on American Islamic Relations, have a number as well as an online form people can fill out. In that time, we're talking about like the rise in hate crimes, but we always recommend, and we will include other organizations such as the Greater Federation of Jewish, all of that, and make sure that we have the number, the email set up there on the last slide so people have and know who to contact in case they see something like flyers in their neighborhood.
And just continuing a relationship that we've already started, Julia Berry, who spoke with us on hate crimes in Oklahoma, she's someone who wants to stay involved with the commission's work, and so perhaps we can remember to pull her into those efforts as well.
Yeah, I would say that Julia taught us something very significant, and that was the difference between a hate crime and a hate incident, and which one qualifies as which. And so I think that's not commonly known and would be a great thing for us to include as part of that training. Like, not everything is a hate crime. Some things are just hate incidences. We also talked about offsetting op-eds or doing some writing together. And so following up on your idea, Dean Couch, of surveys or having ad hoc committees who do some research for us, I think that would be a good opportunity to feed into any informal writing that we do concerning particular issues in the city.
Yeah. It may be too early to ask for a specific answer on this, but what comes to mind is looping in our municipal councilors to get any advice or guidelines for when a city commission or a commissioner submits an op-ed in a public forum. Are there rules? Are there protocols? Are there things that we should be aware of? And so we'll if we move forward with that, which I think sounds really interesting and worth doing, we'll certainly get their advice. And yes, Rhonda?
Definitely, it's just to make sure that you're staying on brand and so on, and it probably need to go through the Public Information Office. And they have connections that can get those op-eds placed, so that would be the approach.
Okay. Any other thought?
I think that concludes our...
I do have one other question.
Okay.
Sorry. What about establishing an award, a community award, to give at the end of the year? I don't even know what we would call it. There are all kinds of possibilities, but to establish some kind of tradition to honor someone whose work in our community has been remarkable and commendable, and maybe we have an end of the year celebration of that in connection with Human Rights Day. I just want to add that to you, that long list of things that you're considering.
Okay, thank you.
Any thoughts about awards? I mean, there are a lot of awards, and I could see an argument for us not diving into that area, but think about it. Rhonda, look at her face.
Only because what's the criteria?
Yes.
How do you track? You don't want to overlook people, and maybe there's more than one. It's a sticky wicket once you start. So
It's a
just know.
sticky wicket, and maybe that's another thing that we could do an ad hoc committee on, and of people who are sophisticated about this and know the pitfalls and the things that make it worthwhile, work around all of that.
Yes, I feel like we should honor everyone versus one.
Yeah.
So.
Maybe we can do that. Okay, thank you so much. I can see your list of goals kind of coming out of this. And I love the way you articulated them already. Not so specifically, but broadly. Like, what do you want to accomplish? And then the tactics for accomplishing that can kind of fall into place. So thanks so much. All right, communications, Rhonda Hooper and Brian Wall. Take it away.
All right, now we're on. Okay. Well, Rhonda and I have loosely talked about some of these things, but we've both been extremely busy, so we haven't had a formal sit-down conversation about it. But I believe that we're sort of on the same track, and this was spurred on by some of the original ideas that Dean Couch had given to us, and that is that two main objectives or two main goals for this year two, would be to beef up our website presence that is already there, but is minimal, and that's understandable given that this was just our initial outing in 2023, but to increase the volume of content and of good content that is available for the community and for the other stakeholders. The second goal would be to get the word out about the good things that we have done and the things that we are doing to those same groups, to the community at large, and then our other stakeholders. So underneath each one of those goals would be obviously a number of objectives and strategies to do. The first one with the website is fairly simple. There's a lot of things that are available, outstanding, that we're going to have an annual report and the pieces that go with that, the executive summary, the letter from the chair, and then the complete document itself. That is an easy thing that should be and will be added to the website. I had made some other notes of things that I thought might be possible. I did notice that the presentation from November was listed there. And was that taped?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So if we could get that added, obviously the great photo of some of the commissioners with the mayor, that if we could have that on there. And then links to other HRCs, but we'll have to talk to the comms office to see what is available and what's not. But in addition, as I was thinking about this, is that just an FAQ that we just have on there. How do I submit? What is the difference between a hate crime and a hate incident? I think those are the places where we can put, where people can just go and easily learn from the things that we've learned. So the website, and we're very open to anything else that you guys see that we're like, oh, we probably need that on there, but it's not there now. The second part of it, for the outreach, we've talked about a couple of different ideas here, but I think this might be the year or the time for us, if you're doing a presentation already for the council, if that is succinct and it's packaged and already approved, for us then to pitch that to local organizations, whether it be chambers, different chambers of commerce in their meetings, and then we've got a number of outstanding Rotary clubs here in Oklahoma City. I think those two entities alone, if we had presentations either once quarterly or once every other month to one of those groups, I think that we have done a fantastic job of spreading the word in Oklahoma City, because we're a huge city, but we're tightly connected and everybody talks. The second part of that would just be utilizing some of the other opportunities that we have available here in Oklahoma City. We talked about op-eds. I think that's a great idea. I had not written that down, but just getting on some of the morning channels and so forth. They're always trying to fill space with good stories. Would be great. Perhaps we've already got a relationship with some of the media companies. I know that Rhonda and I do, and I'm sure the city does as well, if we can have some of the remnant space for us to use for some of the messaging that we've already done. And we talked about it last year, but then the utility bill insert as an opportunity to share the message about where we are. And then we've got a number of vacant retail space here in Oklahoma City. Perhaps there's a display that we could use, just like sort of like we did for the libraries, to put it up in a mall location or other highly traffic populated area that is not being used, and that would be a good way for us to partner with a broker or somebody that's got that space available already. So those are just a few of the things that I think that we can do. To your point about not trying to do so much, I think just kind of keeping it simple, prioritizing, looking at those ideas and other things that come up and saying what is achievable and what is doable and what's going to have the greatest impact this year. But we've got a great story of things that we've done, what we've done, and where we're going.
And to echo on to Brian's comments, which were right, spot on, we did the communications plan framework last year, and Emma, I believe, have you been given this? A lot of this past year was, what is our product? And now we're in a position to start marketing our product and service. So that's why the iterations and the evolution of outreach. My only comment is that we would need to work in tandem with the Public Information Office. And so Brian and Emma and I can meet with them to talk about our goals and so on and figure out the best course of action to deliver on it. Social media was, not necessarily one that was in the pipeline, but we need to talk about its viability, and they have much greater audience reach than we could as our own entity. So all of that needs to be ascertained, but bottom line, it is about making people aware and respecting it and understanding how it can help them.
There's so much to think about in this area, and it overlaps every other committee's work, doesn't it? So you're kind of the linchpin of so much.
Once they determine the product, we can help market it.
Yes. Brian's comment, and other people have commented about what we learned from Julia Berry. And in particular, I'm thinking about the distinction between a hate crime and a hate incident, and how interesting that distinction is, and also how it carves out an area for this commission to address hate incidents. A hate crime, we're going to refer that to the police department. We're not going to keep it. But a hate incident in which we have a contractor in a neighborhood creating some animus with neighbors, and it seems to be racial in nature, and or something to do with neighbors not getting along, or people who are working together not getting along, and I'm just wondering whether that is some space for us in terms of receiving a complaint, getting a response, bringing people together, and having some sort of conciliation. I'm getting way too deep into the details, but that's an example of something where our education events build upon our understanding of how we can function in the community.
I have a little thing just to ask. This is kind of passing through. What if we were able to work with the city council that meets on Tuesdays, but one of the Tuesdays that a HRC report was given by you or the communication people as to what has happened or taken place, just to get the product out there? Because
you're talking about the actual people involved in a dispute? Or?
I'm just saying that there is say on the third Tuesday, you come in and you give a report as to where we are that month, what our meeting is, because I know that I don't get to watch or be down here all the time, but I do tune in and look at the replays on things. And if I saw that HRC is starting to have that quote-unquote advertising, then maybe that would make it a little bit more aware. Here's an example. We're having an HOA meeting on Saturday for our neighborhood and some surrounding neighborhoods, and I just asked for a few moments to talk about what's going on in our city, because Bradley's not going to be able to be there. I want to bring up HRC, but I don't want to overstep my bounds as to what we're doing. So I thought that if we could start getting things out like that, that you or Rhonda, whoever you choose to do that, maybe you alternate it as to what we're doing. I don't know if that's a possibility.
I would have to ask the city council whether they even want
Give us
monthly reports.
5 minutes.
Yeah. I don't know.
I
That's
don't know.
something to look
That's
into.
in the communication thing, and if you don't like it, that's fine. Like I said, it's just passing through.
But Ralph, you do bring up something that Brian was suggesting that we do, and that is present to groups. So your neighborhood association, you get on their agenda and you have our one-page summary to kind of be a guide of what we've done, and spread the word. Oklahoma City has a Human Rights Commission, and here's who we are, what we do, and we would welcome input.
And Ralph, the regularity of every meeting or even once a month may be too much. However, having this is what we're going to focus on in the coming year, and maybe have a 5-minute presentation to the city council relative to that, or it's the reflection of what we've accomplished. But we have to be sensitive to, people's. We can't name names and things like that. So, but to Valerie's point and yours, getting outreach to key organizations and having those presentations would be extremely helpful and beneficial.
So one thing the communications team could do is create a strategic list. What are the 4 or 5 organizations that we would like to ask to be a part of them?
And the Speakers Bureau, who would be the speakers?
Yes, and we could do that, yeah. We could figure that out.
If I could add that there may be an opportunity, though, to take the annual report and then turn that into a very short, constructed video, if the Office of Public Affairs can help us do that, that then can be easily shown. You can say, I can have 5 minutes. It's already loaded up. All you do is play the video, and that gives where we've been and what we're doing this year. That might be a kind of an easy stopgap for those smaller events to do as well. But again, it depends on if they're going to have the capacity and availability to help us do it this year, but that's quite possible since all the material will already be there.
I think we're building on our work and carrying it forward, so thank you both for your thoughts on this. Your expertise is very welcome. Anyone else? Thoughts, brainstorming? I love all the ideas. I love the idea of a short video to carry around with me. Hey, would you like to see it? 5 minutes. We all could do it. We've built in a 10-minute break here, but I'm going to suggest that we not have a break unless someone is just dying for a brief break. Okay. Let's move to the Rules and Governance area. And Dr. Leslie Van Buskirk, I'll turn to you for this.
We actually don't have anything to recommend at this time because we filled the gap of what we had an oversight miss before at our last meeting. So we have no recommendations for this meeting.
Okay, and I think that's perfectly fine. I just want to insert into our thinking an idea that we had from the beginning, and it also ties into the communications area, and that is, should we Do we want to have a mission statement or a vision statement? We don't have to have a mission statement or a vision statement, and the ordinance itself is kind of like got a lot of inspiring language that expresses our purpose and our mission. But organizations I know often find it helpful to, say, have something other than the ordinance to give somebody who's like, what do you do? Well, try to speak in a sentence or two who we are, what we do, what our essential purpose is. And it's not something to be done today, and yet I would like to put on our radar screen for the March meeting a more extended consideration of this.
Okay.
Do we want to have one? And if we do, how do we go about building something that all of us can agree to?
And we can certainly put together a pros and cons and maybe even a sample of a mission and vision statement.
Yes, I think that would be very instructive.
I think Barbara and I can handle that.
Okay,
Yeah.
let's do that in March. Rhonda?
Sorry to interrupt, but actually, at our early meetings, we did have a mission statement.
I
if
know,
may.
okay, go ahead.
It's changed, but the vision statement isn't there. So I think if you use this as a springboard, but it says, the mission of the Oklahoma City Human Rights Commission is to support the city's commitment to protecting the human rights of every person in our community. The HRC is charged to act as the watchdog of human rights in the city and has been empowered by the city to hear, review, and refer complaints of potential human rights violations.
Yes, that's something I put together without any sort of consensus. I was just, yeah, okay, it might be a starting point. But I do think it's important that all of us build the mission statement ourselves. Daisy?
I have another comment. Would this committee, the Rules and Governance Committee, help with maybe working with the appointment of new officers or the terms if they're coming? I know mine is coming up. I have a 2-year term.
So do
and
I.
so working with,
I think we had planned on addressing that maybe at our next meeting, because we need to certainly educate the councilman or council
that's what I was
member
thinking.
of what their responsibility and their role is in that issue.
Yeah, and especially like that at least one member shall be, at least one member appointed to the commission shall be a person who practices law or is educated in law. So I think there's some.
Thank you for raising this, Daisy, because just a point of information for all of us. The even-numbered wards commissioners your terms will expire in September because of the way the appointment process occurred early on. So that is Cindy Wynn in Ward 2, Dr. Van Buskirk in Ward 4, and Daisy Escalera in Ward 6, and Rhonda Hooper in Ward 8. Now, I've looked at the ordinance and our bylaws, and there's nothing that prohibits reappoint. Say we can have successive terms, and the ordinance itself doesn't prohibit it at all, and it refers to initial appointments, so suggesting that successive appointments are appropriate. I hope that we can see reappointment of all of the commissioners. Hopefully that you will want to continue. And I also think, kind of echoing these remarks, our role would be to support the city council. It's their responsibility, but we can support them by first alerting them to the expiration of terms and informing them if a commissioner wants to be reappointed. And if not, help them participate in the really rigorous process that the city has set up to see if anyone else is interested. I know that there's a process, but it's not well known, and if we want a really vibrant, dynamic, diverse commission, then we should help the city council find ways to do that without just word of mouth. There needs to be a way, and I do believe the city has set up a way, but it maybe is not well known. So those two things for the Rules Committee kind of stand out to me as things for goals, and there may be
And I
others.
apologize, I knew both of those were the goals, I didn't know we were discussing
Well,
them
no,
today.
and really, hopefully, all the goals will kind of crystallize in March, and we can see them all for ourselves. But I appreciate that. All right, complaints and conciliation, Daisy and Ralph.
No, we had a very productive, wonderful meeting. Ralph and I spoke for I would think it was 45 minutes, 30 to 45 minutes. But Ralph took notes for us, and he has great feedback on how that meeting went. You were taking notes, so I let you.
Should we have a drum roll?
And you didn't bring them.
If I recall, I said you'll be happy to present, but
That was in your notes.
we had a good conversation. We did our questions, opened it for more questions. And one of the things we're concerned about is, should we have some training as to what the process looks like from stem to stern? Should Emma be afforded the ability to teach us if she goes to training? One of our concerns is that if we choose to provide additional languages for the complaints, do we have on staff in Oklahoma City all those languages, or would we have to hire outside for those language barriers to be taken care of by somebody to interpret? One of our concerns is that because our budget is small and we want to leave that to the communications and to possibly maybe even speakers that may come in that may need required, that would be instrumental in our foundation, that we don't want to take up that, but we need to check to see what kind of language barriers that we need to exceed. We've got English and Spanish now. Do we need Vietnamese, or do we need something else? So that's one question that we had, but that opens up the question for many other things. But the other thing that was our main concern and our main focus, and Daisy, you tell me if I'm off base here, is that we feel like that if something were to come to us, it's going to be, what do we do now? So I would like for us all to know that process. I know I would volunteer to be a guinea pig for Emma if she were to go to training and then to teach me. I'd be glad to come down here when we could make it and just go through a scenario. Maybe take one of these that we're not getting to work on, this 16 that we've had, and just use that and maybe change it a bit to see where we are. None of us in here, except for maybe a couple of us, are mediators, and we shouldn't be put into a situation where we're not qualified. I think we completely agreed on those things. You jump in here anytime you want to add to it.
Yeah, I think the only thing is that we did discuss training, like how much training should each of us get, right? I know that you should get the most training, just mediation or any other training that can help you support and kind of really look at those complaints, and I'm sure you're getting a lot of support from great legal minds here. But the training that you get is going to be different than what Ralph and I get, and then the training that everyone else gets. But the more that we're going to be out there, and the more PR and the wonderful communications team and what they're doing, the more we're probably going to be asked, like, what is it that you do? And what can you or cannot do? And why is it that, I heard so-and-so submitted a complaint and you pushed it out, or, rejected it. You didn't look into it. So I think we should all be prepared at some level, maybe different tiers of training. So I think that's a further discussion that we can have with Emma and Dean Couch, just to kind of see that. But we thought about training, we thought about the languages, but we need to be prepared for that. We're not getting an influx of complaints right now, but if we do translate it, even the Spanish one, right? What happens once you start getting more Spanish? You probably are not getting as many right now, and do you have staff members that are trained just like you are? Or will you be using a translation, interpretation? If we're going to open up the doors, let's be prepared in case we do get an influx of complaints in those languages. So we would love to, but I think there's, like Ralph said, there's so many other questions that we have in mind with that. I think it was that, training. I don't remember what other, there were 3 things that we discussed. Maybe it was that.
So my notebook is filled with everything but the notes that I took with her. I don't know how that happened, but you can come over here and see, and I have thumbed through it, and I am embarrassed because I had good notes, which is odd for me. But I think that we have an opportunity when we're out visiting, because I am now starting to hear people know that I'm on this commission, and I've had a couple of phone calls and just brief conversations. I want to have a script, if you will, to be able to just, and we've got that with our bylaws, but they want to know a bit more. Bylaws are kind of a different language to many people, and I want to be able to communicate on the level to which they tell me. So I'm asking communications, if you have a script, Dean, if you have a script that you're using, pass it on to us via email, because I will have it and I'll be able to pull it up and say some things, because I am getting more opportunities to be in front of larger groups of people. And it's not sought after, it's just happening, and I don't know if that's just a door opening for me.
That's really good to know, and opens up the possibility of maybe just a short workshop using our communications team and our municipal counselors to help us shape that interface with the public. So that if it's not a script, it's some points, the bullet points that are best to use to describe the commission and what we do. So I really like that idea.
They basically would be talking points.
Yeah.
Talking
Yes.
points that
Talking.
have gone through legal to make sure we aren't putting us in a strange position. But we
Right.
need to be the right advocates and communicators as a result of it, so.
I think it would be interesting or fun at one point if we took and did scenarios with this group as an example. And you can pick on me if you want. But I would like to be put into that position so that I can give that simple explanation of what our job is. And I see your heads nodding. I guess that means you agree.
Yes.
I think that's very worth doing this year, this second year.
I think that would be one of our goals, even though that's more on the communication side, but still, it has to do with us, because we don't know what we'd be doing if something came across the board.
Or what to look for, right? What to look for in maybe changing the complaint procedures or the complaint, the actual complaint form. I think if we learn a little bit more about that in depth, then I think it'll help Ralph and I kind of be more productive in this committee.
Yes. Dr.
I personally need to hear it again. It's been a year since we talked about things like open meetings. It's been a year since we've talked about the purpose of what it is that we're here to do. And so having a reminder or a refresher, not just for us, but every year that we serve, I think would be a good way for us to, even as we get new commissioners, because maybe some people don't want to be reappointed, but it helps us not to assume that we know, but re-solidifies what we need to know as the voices of the Human Rights Commission.
I agree. I hope that when your all's terms come up, that you'll consider staying on, because we're building this house and we need this firm foundation, and we're getting ready to start the second floor. And I think that if we are able to keep that going, so when your term expires the next time, or my term expires, at least we've got the roof on the thing. And it's slow going because we're all a little timid as to what we're doing. And I feel that way. Maybe I'm speaking for myself, but I think that we've made huge strides from where we were a year ago today.
Thank you, Ralph and Daisy. Those really are thought-provoking points. I do remember from talking with you, Ralph, after your meeting with Daisy, there was one other item that you all discussed, and that was building more relationships with referral agencies. And I would include in that with a few of them, exploring memorandums of understanding so that a referral from us protects the complainant's statute of limitations and other matters in terms of when they have to file a complaint. We could certainly do that with the Attorney General's office, the Civil Rights Division, and Julia Berry is primed to do that with the U.S. Attorney's Office, but we have the EEOC, HUD, other agencies that really Emma will have most contact with, so she would need to be right in the middle of all of that activity. But that might be within your purview to supervise all of that. Okay, any other thoughts in the complaints area? Complaints and conciliation. Don't forget that conciliation part, because that's what we can do. If we're ready for a wrap-up, I'll just take a moment. Does anybody have any other thoughts that have to do with the sort of the brainstorming that's gone on here? I'm thinking too that our wonderful municipal counselors can get involved in some of the training that we've been talking about and other areas. So, okay, well, let's think of a wrap up here for us going forward. Maybe our work can be guided by two things. One, accountability, because you can envision our second annual report at the end of this year. What's it going to look like? What will we have accomplished? And the other is to use the goals that we're crystallizing to inspire us to not just come here and hold meetings, but to translate an image into reality for our community. And from my mind, just sort of take full ownership of the gift that we have been given as a commission to help amplify the voice of the city around human rights. It's a real honor and privilege, I think, to be able to do this work, and I love doing it with all of you, and I hope this strategic planning session has crystallized some ideas for us in the immediate future. Emma, do you have any other wrap-up thoughts here?
Yeah, just thanks everyone for taking some time to do like a little bit of pre-work and put some good thought into both reflecting on what you've done and then also, again, trying to look forward to see what we should be doing in the second year. I think from a logistics side, I have a lot of notes of things that I need to follow up on the city side, particularly from the communications team and then from some of the complaints, the like training perspective, because all of this again costs money, and so I want to be mindful of one, what city capacity we have, and then like budgetary capacity. I think I'll obviously regroup with Dean Couch. I think we'll probably be in touch with each of y'all to try to get the goals distilled into 1, 2, or 3 points, and then just have you kind of write down some of the different tactics or strategies for implementing them. I think a lot of them have been spoken, but if we're going to do op-eds or if we're going to think about presentations to other like chambers of commerce or something, we want to see what the appetite is for folks to actually implement those things. Like, it takes time to write and edit an op-ed, it takes time and investment to go present, and so I think they're all great, and I think we can come back to sort of say, here's what we have, and then also with Leslie and Barbara building out potential mission and vision, I think it's also nice to have those goals available to the public too, because we want them to know what we're aiming for so they can hold us accountable and we can be accountable to them as well. Because again, ultimately, we're here to serve the residents. So we'll be in touch, but really great ideas and a lot to sort of follow up on. So thank you all again. Really excited for the next year.
Yes, thank you, all of you, for this conversation. We'll move now to remarks and announcements, and we do have a member of the public who's asked to speak to the commission, Ms. Audra Beasley. And Ms. Beasley, we would welcome any comments that you have.
I'm really tall, so I'm going to stand over here. First, I want to thank you, each and every single one of you, for your work that you've done on the commission. I've kind of followed you a little bit, but I've actually been really busy on my own, doing my own thing. But every single one of you are doing great work. I was a starting member at the Oklahoma Children's Hospital Family Advisory Council, and I went through a board building process, and I'm stepping away after 5 years when I should have only served two, but the founding members of that commission came around and made great change. So I want to thank you for having the conversations that you're having. When you talk about barrier to language, you know, we're also talking about person-first language, and are we speaking person-first language along with all these things? So I'm listening to everything you have going on, and it seems like a whole lot, and you guys need like a storyboard, you know?
Yeah.
Get all these ideas going and work on them and little chunks away. But the reason why I'm visiting today is I think it was 2019 whenever I first asked Larry White and Maureen Heffernan and all these people around the city that, what are we going to do when Max, my son, is a disabled American, and he's the first one to attend John Rex Charter with wheels. And Max was born with spina bifida, and he needs caregiver assistance a lot with his daily needs. And I got two older boys. Gabriel was the first pre-K class, so his 10-year, he's aging out. He's going to high school next year. But 10 years I've spent at John Rex. And I voted for that initiative too, Maps for Kids. And I have a whole lot to say about it and my perspective and my experiences over the last 10 years of just raising a child in downtown Oklahoma City and all these brand new buildings around us. And I don't know if any of you are familiar with my work, but adult-sized changing tables are coming to Oklahoma City. A lot of them are already here. So one's coming to City Hall too. But I had to file an ADA grievance to get it after people knew about it for a whole long time. I shouldn't have to call up Keith Wilkinson to say, well, Max is going to want to come to these City Hall meetings about the city ordinance that we're adopting. But where is Max going to have restroom access in that building? Is someone at City Hall going to tell my son not to go to the floor in the bathroom? So I think there's 11 buildings that I had to ask ADA Keith Wilkinson for, and he's assured me that change is coming. But anyway, if you don't know about the city code coming, what we've proposed is what the International Code Councils, anybody familiar with the International Code Council? It is the International Code Council, so when you think global of building standards. And the ICC this year adopted the new building codes for what a family restroom is defined as, is to include adult-sized changing tables in certain facilities. And so my son, Max, has rights in this building as a disabled American to have restroom access, and there's probably a baby changing station in here, but it has a maximum weight limit of 50 pounds, and Max weighs 90. And I want you to think about if someone just asked you, where would someone weighing 91 pounds have restroom access in this building? What would your first thought go to? Would you think of trying to find whose office has a couch? Do we have a private office with a folding table, right? That's what we're looking at. But more than often, I'm just directed to the floor in a restroom. And it's 2024 and 34 years after the ADA, 33. So it took me 3 years to get a changing table over at the Capitol. And now I've filed a complaint with the United States Department of Education because Ryan Walters refuses to allow my son to have access at the Oliver Hodge building. Because he says, well, it's not in the standards. And there's a lot of people that need to be if you were to educate yourself on Title II and Title III of the ADA, that affects our city buildings and all of our buildings of places of public accommodation, like our movie theaters. Anyway, I'm kind of tangled up in the mess with the city, or with the state, but I want you to know that every single person, not one person from the city has ever told me no. I don't believe that we don't need to, everyone. Brian Mon is getting these tables over at the county offices. Keith Wilkinson is amazing. Talk about recognition, okay? And I like your idea of recognizing a lot of people. There's not just one person. And that way people get to know, if you recognize all these disability rights advocates, my issues become their issues. I know a lot of people just fighting for mental health care, and we're fighting for respite care. Caregivers have the most challenging job ever, right? I have a lot of notes because I've got a whole lot of things going, and I don't want to take up whole much time, but I would like to be scheduled as a speaker for you all, so I can show you what I've been doing and what's coming with the city council. And if you could reach out to Scott Wise and get the most current updated code proposal for adult-sized changing tables that'll go before the city council. I hope that you would read that and ask, if you have any questions or concerns. Maybe one of you sees something that needs to, if it flags a question for you. But having one at the Metropolitan Library, the Civic Center, there's one over at the Oklahoma City Convention Center. They're all coming. When we build a big old arena, we need to think about that, but we also need to think about what are we doing to remove barriers at the state park, at the state fair. I can't take Max to the state fair. He doesn't have a restroom out there. Can you imagine trying to find restroom access at the state fair? I'd take him to my car. So the Coliseum's going to have an adult-sized changing table. But what about all those other buildings? What if we can't put in a $2,800 freestanding table in one building? What can we do in all buildings? Riversport, y'all, that parking lot over there is a hot mess. I have an ADA grievance on it too. You got to go way out of your way just to find a curb cut, and there's no accessible parking going into that building. That parking lot was done without a permit. And so how much does it cost us whenever we don't? So John Rex Charter Elementary School, they had to block off like 10 parking spots just so I can unload Max in the morning and not be, he almost got hit by a truck once. So now a private citizen, one of our parents, their construction company is paying to put in just a curb cut around the accessible parking on the south side. You go around that building and there's only one accessible parking space, and he can only go in the door without having a barrier, a curb, without getting him out in the street and coming around. It's a brand new building. And they ran that bike lane right in front of our school, knowing that that's the only accessible parking space. He's also been hit by a bicyclist too. But now a private citizen is having to step up instead of the city to fix that in a 10-year-old building we funded. So
it's a lot to think about.
There's so much. I would really like to come speak with y'all.
Well, thank you so much. This is very informative in itself, and we appreciate your continuing interest in our meetings. And
I think
yes,
I'll
you're
start
welcome
coming.
Here anytime. Good. I want you to start coming.
Okay.
Wonderful. Thank you.
I just, I just want to add, I had a chance to speak with Audra earlier and then also connect with Keith Wilkinson at the city. And I just want to say, talking to Keith and hearing from you, thank you so much for your advocacy. Like, we just got a little sliver, but like, Keith was like, if I was a child with a disability, you were exactly who I would want as my parent. So you're moving and shaking, and so I appreciate that. Looking forward to keeping up with Scott Wise. He sent me the code, so I'm happy to forward that, because again, like, this is an individual, and I definitely just admire what you're doing for all folks across the city. So thank you so much.
I have a project I think I want your help on.
Okay, we can be in touch, but thank you so much.
Yeah, can I say one more thing?
Sure.
The city of Oklahoma City needs a mobile restroom. So if you think about the MLK Pride Marathon, on the MLK Day, all these buildings down here are closed. Civic Center Music Hall has one, but they're closed. Where would Max have restroom access? And they make like a travel trailer. The city invests in one trailer. You put it somewhere like at the end of the marathon, right over there by Scissortail Park, or right over, that parade comes right down through here, right? Put it somewhere and let people know where it's at, that if you have an individual with disabilities, but it's gonna take a trailer. And I can show you what they've done. It's Mobiloo or something, but I think that the city could invest in one and just see how it goes.
Yeah.
We would see a totally different, diverse population attend these gatherings, these citywide gatherings. Okay, there's people that want to get out of their homes. There's a lot of, it's talking about isolation and then discriminated against when they're out in public.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
We really appreciate all the information and messages. I just want to say hello to Mr. Warrior. Thank you for being here. I guess so. Let me ask my attorney. If he's signed up, he hasn't signed up, can he say something?
He can sign up.
Oh, you can sign up right now then. We have to have you sign a slip. And Commissioner Hooper, I know that you need to leave, so, yeah.
Yes, I'm Xenophon Warrior, address 5712.
Hold on just a second. We haven't quite gotten to that part yet.
Members
So
of
is
the
he-
public?
Yeah, have you announced it?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, we're in that.
He's good.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, I would like to say it's, wow, it just, your annual report you talked about today in your meeting, it doesn't seem like it's, it just seems like just last summer when this commissioner just met. HRC, Human Rights, that was just initiated just sometime last year. It was great to hear that. I do remember that particular meeting, that particular city council meeting when it was voted upon. This chamber was completely full people, and it seemed as if there were a lot of Christian nationalism ideology that was coming out from the woodwork that was being discussed at that particular time. I have with that. But it's great. You were talking about the bystander intervention program. That sounded interesting. I'd like to see how that's going to be developed. I know there was some things that were discussed about some intervention activities that were discussed in a meeting I went to several months ago that another group were working on some type of interventions type of programs to have with that. And also this coming weekend, my neighborhood association, HOA, is meeting this coming weekend. And I think I will mention the HRC as one of the things, the topics that we'll be discussing that they have with that. And it's a shame, you know, there was a town hall meeting we had last night, I was told, at Ward 7. I did think you would kind of mention about possibly something that could be discussed or being brought up about this new commission that's being formed at various types of town hall meetings. Particularly since you do have a city councilwoman that's on this particular committee that's for that particular ward. So that might be something to be good use for that. But I do want to commend you for what the work that you've been working with, and I'll be looking forward to things and see how it's going to be developed and see how the HRC starts kind of growing legs and moves down the road. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Warrior. Appreciate it. I'm sorry? Mr. Warrior, just for the record, we will need you to fill out a form, a speaker form, when you can. All right, members of the commission, any announcements or final remarks? And members of the city staff, would you all like to speak to us?
You all are doing an amazing job. Keep up the good work, and we will help you in any way we can.
Thank you. We appreciate your help so much. We are through the agenda, so our meeting is adjourned. Thank you all, and Happy New Year. Does Tammy keep this?